Hi everyone, thank you so much for your time. If you are interested in understanding the AWS file storage use cases, want to know how it could benefit your requirements, this session is for you. My name is Kumar Nachiketa, and I am a Storage Partner Solutions Architect at AWS. And today, I'm going to help you dive deep into AWS file storage. I'm super excited about sharing this with you. Here's what I'm going to cover. I'm going to introduce Amazon Elastic File System, EFS, and Amazon FSx for the Windows file server. I'm also going to explain its features, dive deep on some solution, and also I'm going to demonstrate it at the end. So let's get started. First off, when customers begin their journey with AWS, regardless of the services they choose, we see three common patterns on why customers choose AWS to transform their organization. First, customers are looking to transform their IT infrastructure. For example, how to better manage things like security, availability, performance, and cost. Second, they look to transform their application architectures, how to better integrate your solutions with the modern applications like container, data lake, and finally, they look to transform their business results. So today, as I go through this session, I would like you to think about how AWS file storage can help achieve these goals for your organization. Now, let me start by briefly introducing the file storage portfolio for AWS. Amazon EFS, FSx for Windows file server for your typical business workloads, and Amazon FSx for Lustre for a very heavy compute-intensive workloads. Let's look at these one by one. Amazon EFS, Elastic File System. It can be easily shared between multiple applications, instances, and on-premises servers simultaneously. Whichever application can use NFS v4, you can achieve a petabyte scale from a distributed design that avoids the constraint imposed by traditional file servers. FSx for Windows file server. It's built on Windows Server with native support for Windows file system features you use today. So you have the options to choose SSD storage for high throughput IOPS and sub-millisecond latencies. And very recently, we started supporting new low-cost HDD storage options as well. FSx for Lustre. It's built on the highly popular open source parallel file system Lustre. It processes data at hundreds of GB of throughput per second, millions of IOPS, and sub-millisecond latencies. You can use it for scratch or short-lived or long-lived self-healing workloads. So in today's session, I'm covering EFS and FSx for Windows file servers. Now, it's worth spending some time to discuss what fully managed means. I guess something that you can relate to is that managing file server is a lot of work. Before the cloud, you manage hardware and software. Well, now we have the cloud. If managing file server on AWS, you don't need to worry about the hardware piece, but you still need to manage the software. Things like installing and configure software, set up and configure the file system, apply software licenses, manage backups, and monitor security. So it's a lot of work and it's not fun. So that's where EFS and FSx for Windows file server help to take away those burdens. So let's explore these services in more details. Let me start by giving more details about Amazon Elastic File System or Amazon EFS. Amazon EFS is a network file systems evolved. It is a fully managed shared file system that is cloud native, highly reliable, and cost optimized. Let me expand a bit on cloud native. So you can grow and shrink EFS on demand. It's pay as you go. Pay only for what you use. You don't need to provision and manage infrastructure and capacity. You can have shared access from on-premises or inter-region. You can access EFS concurrently from thousands of Amazon EC2 instances. You can also attach it to containers launched by both Amazon ECS and EKS. And finally, you can use it with Amazon SageMaker notebooks for your machine learning workloads. EFS is highly reliable and scalable. It stores data across 3 availability zones for high availability and durability. It's available in all the regions except Osaka, which is an Asia Pacific local region. With EFS, you can grow up to petabytes to support a wide variety of cloud storage workloads. EFS offers 2 performance modes, general purpose performance mode and max IO performance mode. There are 2 throughput modes to choose from for your file system, bursting throughput and provision throughput. With bursting throughput mode, throughput on Amazon EFS scales as the size of your file system in the standard storage class grows. With provision throughput mode, you can instantly provision the throughput of your file system in megabyte per second, independent of the amount of data stored. Amazon EFS can be highly optimized for cost. With a feature, Amazon EFS infrequent access or EFS IA, which is a newer storage class, you can save up to 92% compared to the pre-existence EFS storage class, which we are now calling EFS standard. I'm going to dive into it more a bit later. Let's talk about a few use cases for EFS now. We designed EFS to serve the vast majority of file-based workloads, covering a broad spectrum of performance needs. This spectrum runs from highly parallelized scale-out jobs, those workloads that require the highest possible throughput. Things like big data applications and media workflows to single-threaded latency-sensitive workloads and everything in between. Switching to FSx now. As I mentioned before, Amazon FSx for Windows File Server provides fully managed, highly reliable file storage. It is built on Windows Server. It delivers a wide range of administrative features, such as user quotas, end-user file restores, and Microsoft Active Directory AD integration. One crucial aspect is that it's broadly accessible. By supporting the SMB protocol, Amazon FSx can connect your file system to Amazon EC2, VMware Cloud on AWS, Amazon Workspaces, and Amazon AppStream 2.0 instances. Amazon FSx supports all Windows versions, starting from Windows Server 2008 and Windows 7, as well as current version of Linux and Mac OS. Amazon FSx also supports on-premises access via AWS Direct Connect or AWS VPN and access from multiple VPCs, accounts, and regions using VPC peering or AWS Transit Gateway. Amazon FSx was designed for a broad set of use cases that require Windows shared file storage like CRM, ERP, custom or .NET applications, home directories, data analytics, media and entertainment workflows, web serving and content management, software build environment, and Microsoft SQL Server. So let me discuss a few key features of EFS and FSx for Windows File Server. And let me start with EFS. And the first feature, Amazon EFS infrequent access or EFS IA. I talked briefly about this feature before. EFS infrequent access was launched in February 2019. It's a storage class that can save you up to 92% compared to the pre-existent EFS storage class, which we are now calling EFS standard. You can use EFS IA to store larger amount of data in your file system cost effectively, and expand your use of EFS to a much broader set of applications. Using EFS infrequent access is super easy. It doesn't require any changes to existing applications. EFS provides a single file system namespaces, and that transparently serves file from both storage classes, standard and infrequent access. So let's talk a little bit about how EFS infrequent access works at a high level. First, you create a file system. EFS file systems transparently serve data from both storage classes, as I mentioned, and it provides a common file system namespaces, so you don't have to worry about which of your files are actively in use and which are infrequently accessed. Next, you enable EFS lifecycle management for your file system. With EFS lifecycle management enabled, any files that aren't accessed as per that lifecycle policy, and it can be 14, 30, 60, and 90 days. So those files are automatically moved into the infrequent access storage class. So with the infrequent access storage class and lifecycle management, we are eliminating the need to manage your data to optimize for cost manually. Let me now talk about how you can restrict EFS access using an IAM Resource Policy. Today, you can use IAM Identity Policy to control what EFS administrative APIs a user can access. IAM authorization for NFS clients allows customers to manage NFS client access and permission for an EFS file system using AWS IAM. It adds a layer of security on top of EFS's current network-based access control. It provides often requested security features such as root squashing, read-only access, and the ability to enforce TLS. With IAM authorization for NFS clients, we are adding 3 actions that allows you to control NFS client access to your file system. Adding client mount, permission to mount as read-only, client write, permission to read and write, and client root access, permission to read and write as the root user. For those times, you need more granular policies. We are adding file systems resource policies. These policies make it easy to specify which exact users have read, write, or root access to a particular file system. Now, let me switch to the FSX for Windows File Server now. And the first thing I want to talk about is deployment options available. At launch, we offered single AZ. Now we have multi-AZ deployment option. Single AZ file systems are designed to be highly available and durable within an AZ by replicating data within an AZ and automatically replicating infrastructure components in the event of failure. Multi-AZ file system supports all the availability and durability feature of single AZ file system, and also it's designed to provide continuous availability to date, even if an AZ is unavailable. In a multi-AZ deployment, Amazon FSx automatically provisions and maintains a standby file server in a different availability zone. Any changes writing to disk in your file system are synchronously replicated across AZs to the standby with Amazon FSx multi-AZ deployment. You can enhance availability during a planned system maintenance, and it also helps protect your data against instance failure and availability zone disruption. Another useful feature of FSx for Windows File Server is data deduplication. So what is data deduplication? Large data sets often have redundant data. For example, with user file shares, multiple users tend to have files that are similar or identical. You are saving the same videos, photos, or music. As another example, with software development shares, most binaries remain mostly unchanged from build to build. So data deduplication is a feature in Windows Server that reduces costs that are associated with redundant data by storing a duplicated portion of files only once. It optimizes files transparently such that users and applications accessing the data are unaware of deduplication happening in the background. So, how much storage savings can you expect with data deduplication? The storage savings you can achieve with data deduplication depends on the nature of your data set, including how much duplication exists across files. Typical savings average 50 to 60% for general purpose file shares, with savings ranging from 30 to 50% for user documents and 70 to 80% for software development data sets. Let's take a more in-depth look into a few use cases and solution for Amazon EFS and Amazon FSx for Windows File Server now. And the first one, shared storage for containers. The first question you might ask, do I need shared storage for my containers? Generally, shared file storage is useful for long-running containers that need to be resilient to failures and containers that need to share data. For example, developer tools like Jira, Artifactory, and Git need to share data between instances for high availability. Shared notebook systems like Jupyter and Jupyter Hub need durable storage for notebooks and user workspaces. And having shared storage allows data scientists to collaborate efficiently. So EFS is an excellent choice for such shared storage for a container. You don't need to monitor or provision storage as your persistent storage grows. It supports rapid failover and event-based provisioning, scale container instances without reconfiguring the system. I want to point you out to a blog. URL is on the screen. It covers best practices for using Amazon EFS for container storage, if you are interested in knowing more. So for customers running analytics, EFS can be a great option. EFS is a POSIX compliant file system, right? So application that can access data over NFS v4 can utilize EFS with no code modification required. For example, if you are running analytics against an on-premises or built in the cloud NFS file store, your application is seamlessly portable to EFS. Additionally, there are many data sources feeding analytics applications that understand how to write to a file system. It may be a lab requirement in the healthcare and life sciences world or machine data in manufacturing. For these applications, having a standard interface where data can be written, transformed if needed, then analyzed provides ease of use and flexibility. Now, let's switch to a few solutions with FSx for Windows File Server. The first one, how to scale out storage and performance by using Microsoft's distributed file system, DFS namespace. So the FSx Windows File Server supports maximum up to 64 TB file system size. However, you can scale out the throughput by using Microsoft's distributed file system, DFS namespace. You can use DFS namespace to group file shares on multiple file systems into one common folder structure, which you can call a namespace. You can use it to access the entire file dataset as you see on the screen. And a DFS namespace can help you to organize and unify access to your file shares across multiple file systems. Also, DFS namespace help to scale file data storage beyond what each file system supports, which is 64 TB. So for large files, data sets up to hundreds of petabytes, DFS can support. You can scale performance up to tens of gigabytes per second of throughput with millions of IOPS across hundreds of petabytes of Windows-based file data. The final solution I want to explain is SQL Server High Availability Deployment. High availability Microsoft SQL Server is typically deployed across multiple database nodes in a Windows Server failover cluster, with each node having access to shared file storage. Amazon FSx for Windows File Server can be used as shared storage for high availability. Microsoft SQL Server deployment in two ways: as storage for active data files and as an SMB file share witness. Also, you don't need to deploy, manage, and pay license fees for storage replication software solution. So now let's switch to the demo. I want to show you how to get started with EFS and FSx. All right, I'm going to demonstrate how to get started with Amazon EFS and Amazon FSx. So the first thing, I'm going to create a file system and mount it to a Linux EC2 instance. This is EFS welcome page. I'm going to click on Create File System. And that should give me an option to select VPC. So I'm going to select default VPC. And then next is mount targets. So generally, we recommend to choose all the AZ and create mount point. So you can mount your file system to EC2 across all the AZ. So I'm leaving it all 6 AZ for US East 1 and click on next step. And that should bring me to configure file system settings. Now I'm going to give a name to my file system. And the next is lifecycle management. So as I mentioned before, you can save up to 92% with lifecycle management by sending infrequently accessed data to EFS IA. And you can select these lifecycle policies. For me, I'm going to keep it none and move ahead. The next is throughput modes. We have two modes, bursting and provision. So for most of the workload, bursting is fine. The performance scales with the file system size. But in case you want to specify throughput because you know what you need for your application, then you can choose provision and you can specify the throughput which you want. Now, the next is choose performance mode. We have two performance modes, general purpose and max IO. So for broad range of workload, you are going to choose general purpose. For some workload where you need aggregated throughput, for example, big data analytics, you are going to choose max IO. So for me, I'm going to keep it general purpose. And you can also enable encryption. For me, I'm going to leave it unchecked. So click on the next step. And this one is to restrict a client access policy through IAM and access point. For my demo purpose, I'm not going to use it. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. And I'm going to click on next step. And now finally, review and all look good for me. So I'm going to click on Create File System. So in a while, file system should be created. And the next is I want to mount this file system to my Linux client. So I'm going to click on the file system and it actually provides the mount instruction. So here we go. And you see we can install mount mapper here. And for me, I have already done it for my Linux client. And we should create a folder, and this is the mount command. So I'm just going to copy it so I can use it for my client. So this is my Linux client, and just check my current directory. And I'm going to create the directory and then paste the mount command. And it should be done. Yes, it's done. So next, let's check if the file system is mounted. Yes, it looks it's mounted. And now, just to test, I'm going to create a file in this file system. So just using test.txt, write some data in it, and all works good. So we have created a file system and mounted it to Linux instance. Now I'm going to demonstrate FSX for Windows file server. So for FSX, again, I'm going to create a file system and mount it to a Windows client. So this is welcome screen for FSX. I'm going to click on create file system, and it gives options for Windows file server and FSX for Lustre. I'm going to choose FSX for Windows file server and click on next. Now there are a few file system details, so I'm going to give file system name. The next is deployment type. So as I mentioned, we have multi-AZ and single AZ. And in my case, I want to choose single AZ. Even within single AZ, we have two types. So we have recently launched a new feature or new option, HDD, lower cost storage option. So that's not available in single AZ1. So I'm going to select single AZ2 and pick HDD. And the minimum size requirement is 2000 GB. So I'm going to keep 2000 GB. And the next option is network and security. So I'm going to leave default VPC for me, default security group, and subnet because my Windows client is in US East 1D. So I'm going to select this. And the next will be the Active Directory. So I have my AWS managed Microsoft Active Directory. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to choose my Active Directory. And next you can choose your option for encryption, maintenance, and attacks. So I'm going to hit next. And final, review the file system. Everything looks good to me. So I'm going to hit create file system. So create file system, and it's going to take a while. So I'm going to pause this and come back once the file system is created. And once the file system is created, I am going to map this file system to my Windows client. All right, so the file system is created. So I'm going to click on this file system. And like EFS, here also we can see how to attach. So I'm going to click attach, and it provides this info. I'm not going to use command line. I'm just going to copy this share information. And straight away, I'm going to go to my Windows client and click on this folder. And I am going to click on network, right click, and map network drive, and paste the path. And that's it. And click on finish. So the share is mapped now. Now, just to test, I am going to write a test file, hello FSX, and write some data on it. Let's write, this is the first file on FSX. So this should work fine. Yeah, this is working fine. So this concludes the demo for FSX. And also overall EFS and FSX. So we saw how easy it was to get started with EFS and FSX both. That wraps up my presentation for today. If you are ready to continue learning, we offer 45 plus free digital courses around storage, including backup and restore with AWS, and migrating and tiering storage to AWS. You can also take architecting on AWS classroom training to get hands-on practice and learn directly from an instructor. Visit the storage learning path to get started learning about storage. Thank you for attending, and we really appreciate your feedback so that we can better understand the topics and services you would like to know more. So please do take the time to fill out the survey. Thank you for your time again, and enjoy the rest of the day.